I want to start with you, Frank Figliuzzi. This story is on the front page of today's New York Times, and it's not the first thing I read in the paper, but once I started reading it, I was horrified. Most of the people who bended and yielded to this demand for, I think, what is a fourth recount of the recounted votes were threatened. Their lives were threatened, their children were threatened, their spouses were threatened, their homes were put under 24-hour police protection. And I wonder if this is where we are, that the extremists inside the Republican Party are now demanding audits where none is needed.
Yeah, this is audit by intimidation. County sheriffs have parked themselves in front of officials' houses because they've been threatened if they didn't comply with the request for this audit. But let's make this clear. We've audited to death here in Arizona. This is where I reside. And we've had 3 reviews. There have been numerous court challenges. This isn't about proving the lie. It's about perpetuating the lie. There's a big difference. I look at this not through a politics lens, as you know. I look at it as a security challenge. And it's getting more and more dangerous because a cult, which is what this is akin to in terms of what Trump is doing with his base, a cult doesn't survive by proving the lie it's based on, but it simply has to perpetuate it and keep the lie alive. So what you're going to see here is this privately funded, mysterious audit being conducted essentially in the dark. We're blind to it. No one seems to know what the audit procedures are going to be. Don't be surprised if this firm, which is far from independent, comes out and says, you know, we're not sure, there were problems with something and vibrations in the voting machines may have caused this or that. It's just got to be enough to keep the lie alive. And that's what gets people violent. That's what gets people thinking democracy's at stake here. Someone's cheating us in our vote and we've got to act out. And what do cults do when confronted with the truth? They burn the compound down. That's essentially what's left here in Arizona of the Republican Party. They're burning themselves down with extremism.
And Elizabeth, I'd like to ask you to put on your counter-extremism hat and help us process this. The 16 Republicans in the Arizona State Senate reflect that party's lurch to the right. November's elections ousted the Senate's 2 more moderate Republicans, replacing one with a Democrat and another with a Republican who claims lifetime membership in the Oath Keepers, the extremist group that helped lead the assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6. Another self-proclaimed Oath Keeper, State Representative Mark Finchem, proposed in January to give the legislature the power to reject presidential election results and choose new electors by a majority vote. The proposal went nowhere. Mr. Finchem since has become a vocal backer of the audit. Now, that is two questions for you. One, that was what Donald Trump was asking people to do. He was asking state election officials in Arizona, and Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and Georgia to ignore the will of the people and appoint his supporters in the legislatures to reject the will of the people and the vote. So that's how close he came to being successful in Arizona. Mr. Finchem was all for that plan. But my second question is about out and proud Oath Keepers. I mean, it's my understanding that many of them are under scrutiny for potential conspiracy in the insurrection on the Capitol.
Let's start with the Oath Keepers. The challenge that we have while private militias, which is what the Oath Keepers are illegal in all 50 states. What's illegal about them is conducting law enforcement activity. Under the First Amendment, you have the freedom of association. So if you want to belong to a group that's called the Oath Keepers, because we do not have a domestic terrorism law on the books that would, for example, allow us to designate a particular group as a terrorist organization, these members of state legislatures can actually belong to the Oath Keepers, and there's nothing illegal. Now, if they were a part of the insurrection on January 6th, that in and of itself is a crime. So we need to look at that. I would strongly suggest that anybody that is in the local politics there take a look at their association with the Oath Keepers and draw a connection to that violent extremism when they run for office and address it through that mechanism. But right now, we're somewhat hamstrung that the way the laws are written, you could belong to this group that has shown signs and willingness to conduct acts of violent extremism, and association is allowed It's just whether they take personal action that would then commit a crime. So that's part one. But I just want to foot stomp what Frank was drawing the connection to, what Nicole, how you opened this, drawing the connection from the big lie to the violence. Whatever comes out of this audit, I think we're all willing to bet that it's going to either outright suggest that there was fraud or continue to lay the groundwork for people to think it's plausible to believe in the big lie. That big lie led to death and injury on January 6th. That big lie is continuing to promote a willingness for political violence in our country. The University of Chicago did a poll in March and found that 4% of Americans, that's about 10 million people, think that violence is justified because of the big lie. That is just too many people in this country that are willing to take up arms. We need to de-escalate this tension, and by conducting this audit, it's doing the exact opposite. It's just going to be more fuel on the fire, and we are going to have big problems on our hands in the coming months.
Claire McCaskill, I don't think much of the current leaders of the Republican Party, not because I disagree with everything they believe from a policy standpoint, but because Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are AWOL in terms of rooting out extremism within their own ranks. And this is an extension of that. And if I thought of John McCain all day after I read this story, and I thought of Jeff Flake, and if he'd been stronger and more aggressive in fighting Trump and Trumpism, we wouldn't be at this place where this isn't just a vote count. This is exactly what Frank and Elizabeth have described. This is, I'm sure, a national focal point for extremists who still believe the big lie. What do we do?
Can you imagine what John McCain would be doing right now? I mean,
no, I cannot.
He would be losing it, is what he would be doing. And let me just say gently to all of my friends that are with you today, let's not call this an audit. I'm a former auditor, and audits that are done in the public sphere have to be done according to Yellow Book standards. It is a very strict protocol, and there is an assumption that the data underlying an audit is all public data. This is not an audit. This is a political operation, pure and simple. And the fact that they are asking to do it in secret, tells you all you need to know. They don't want to do it. It's public data. They want to do it in secret. And I think Frank is being optimistic. I think they're going to come out and say that Donald Trump won Arizona. These are nutballs. These are not normal people. I mean, OAN as a nonpartisan objective observer. I mean, what kind of joke is this? So it's not an audit. It is in furtherance of the big lie, and they want to do it in secret. That's all you need to know about this nonsense.
And to that end, Von Hilliard, you have some new reporting. I want to throw to your efforts to give them an opportunity to not do it in secret, the way Claire is talking about. And I was in Florida. There were reporters everywhere where ballots were being counted. Let me play some of your interview of trying to get in and witnessing this spectacle.
Hi, sir. How you doing?
I'm not authorized to speak to the
We're with NBC. We're hoping to cover as journalists what's happening here inside.
I'm not authorized to speak to the press or
Are you with the audit, though?
I'm not authorized to speak to the press.
These guys said that we would be able to talk to you about getting in as journalists. Right now, the
wait,
audit...
Wait a minute, you're a journalist?
Yeah, we're journalists with NBC
Reporter?
News.
All right. Then you have
Because there's an audit that is
and
ongoing
you have
right now.
there's a media area for media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we're going to go and double check that our friend got to that media area. It's marked. It's got the cones. We're allowed to be in that area only, not the building.
So we're not allowed to go inside and actually watch the audit go on.
You're authorized, as you said, that you're media.
But being outside is not,
media area.
with all due respect, being outside in the parking lot is not being
Conducting an
able to
interview.
watch.
I'm not authorized to speak to the media.
I know, but the Arizona Republic, other outlets have already left, and I think
there's
there's reason to be concerned when
there's a media-
2.1 million ballots are here. And if I could, OAN, who has exclusive rights to go in,
We told him where to go.
but it's the parking lot, sir. If I could, with all due respect, it says...
Only authorized people can come in with credentials to the media area. That's it. To go in
And
the
so
building.
journalists are not allowed.
Thank you.
Sir, Arizona audit underway. Officials finding signs of fraud. We're wondering what those signs of fraud are. If you could send somebody that could allow us in as journalists.
You're allowed to go to the media area.
That's the parking lot, sir.
Vaughn, you have my admiration forever already, but even more so after that. Just tell me what's going on right now, and just confirm for me, there have been 3 recounts already of these results. This is a 4th spectacle, and as Claire said, I take her point, not an audit at all.
Yeah, correct. And there was one in Maricopa County in the weeks after the election in which the Republican-led Maricopa County Board of Supervisors said that there was, quote, 100% factual accuracy, 100% accuracy. Again, that's the Republican-led Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. The chair of that Board of Supervisors was, in fact, at the President Trump's rally in the days leading up to the election. He stood by it here. And I think that when we were talking about extremism, you know, I got to go back, if I could, Nicole, to last summer here when I was at a 4th of July parade in Prescott, Arizona, and Congressman Paul Gosar was there. And I got a photo of him taking a picture with 2 Oath Keepers as well as 1 Proud Boys member. And at the time, you kind of shake your head and you say that's just 1 member of Congress. But then you'll recall in the nights after the election, November election, Paul Gosar was back outside of the Secretary of State's office there, down in downtown Phoenix, joining a crowd saying they wanted a recount. Well, they ultimately got their recount. But now this has gone beyond just a crowd or Congressman Paul Gosar. This was the Arizona State Legislature, which legally got a subpoena to take 2.1 million ballots. There is not a single local journalist in the Coliseum behind me here with those 2.1 million ballots. Maricopa County makes up about 60% of the Arizona electorate. And you heard me read that OAN headline just a little bit ago. We called it. OAN is the one outlet, if we may, that is allowed inside there with their cameras or allowed in there to monitor. And they have a new headline up here this afternoon. Quote, Arizona audit underway. Officials finding signs of fraud. If you go down and you read, it says, quote, officials said evidence of systemic fraud has already started to show. This is what one Republican consultant I talked to this afternoon, who continues to try to get Republicans elected here, said they knew this was not going to go well, and it has been a series of serious errors that have just led to what is now, I think, as Nicole, or as Claire called it here, a political event here.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.